Good morning and welcome back to Sunrise to Sunset with Pastor Gene. It is Wednesday, October the 21st, and today we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 26, verses 31 through 56. A rather long section, but a very important section. Now, we've just come out of the time where Jesus has instituted the Lord's Supper, and now he foretells the denial of Peter. You see Peter jump up and say, after Jesus says, "You will all become deserters because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." And Peter impulsively, as usual, jumps up and says, "I'm not going to betray you." How many times have we ever said, "I'm not going to do something. I'm not going to feel a certain way. I'm just not going to be that"? How many times have we said in our life what we were not going to do, and then we ended up doing it? Sometimes we might want to ascribe Jesus' ability here. I've referred often to his wisdom and his intellect, his knowledge of human nature. Maybe Jesus knew that this was just a piece of human nature, but it's also something that was part of the plan. The betrayal and the denial and the continued way that people do that today. I mean, you see it everywhere. You see it in just about every walk of life. Yes, we see obedience and we see faith, and those are wonderful things, but we also see disobedience, and we also see lack of trust in all kinds of places, in all kinds of ways, even in the church. We don't want to see that, but the reality of it is that it happens. Jesus calls Peter out. He tells him, he says, I know you're going to betray me. You're going to deny me, not once, but 3 times before dawn. It's interesting here that he begins this passage by saying, "Strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." That's what happens a lot of times when you do something to the leader. The followers are in confusion and don't really know what to do. Now, I'm not just talking about politics right now, so don't anybody go there. I'm talking about in any organization where there's a leader. There needs to be a unity around that person. And Jesus knows that that's not always going to be the case, and he calls out the disciples on this. So they go out to Gethsemane and they pray, and there they are all out there, and Jesus asks them to just stay awake, kind of like the parable he told them back in chapter 24 about the bridesmaids needing to stay awake and needing to be ready. And then lo and behold, while they're sleeping, here comes the people and the one who has betrayed Jesus to the chief priests. Judas is there with them. And Judas comes up to Jesus and he gives Jesus a kiss. This is the sign so that the people who have come for Jesus will know. It's dark. Remember, it's dark. And that's a very important piece of what's going on here. A lot of times things are done in the dark that are wrong, done behind a cloak of darkness and evil, because sometimes we know they're not right. Judas knew what he was doing. He was betraying Jesus. And so to make sure that they got the one that they came for, that he had made an arrangement that they would kiss, he would kiss that one on the cheek. And Jesus says, "You would betray me with a kiss?" And then, of course, impulsive Peter comes into play again, draws out his sword and whacks off the ear of the servant of the high priest. And Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen this way?" And then Jesus turns to the crowd. He comes to the crowds that are there, and he says, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple, and you did not arrest me. And all this took place to fulfill the scriptures. Then the disciples deserted and fled. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. You know, when we do what we do in the church, right out in the open, with honesty and integrity, we're acting in the light. But when we do things in darkness, or under cover of darkness, or without the transparent truth, the results are often what we see right here in the Garden of Gethsemane. So, as we reflect on this passage of Scripture today, from sunrise to sunset, let's ask this question. Are we doing what we do in the light of God's truth and love? Or are we hiding something? Think about it.